Hey there, greetings from Melbourne and welcome to Duck and Roses, the place to cook better, eat better and feel great. Roll intro. Actually, I don't have any fancy intro yet, but I am working on it. So let's just get straight into it. So today, I'm going to show you a culinary wonder of years gone by, right from the heart of Tuscany. Honey from a weed. Now, it's a wonderful idea of being able to extract one of life's most incredible natural foods, honey, from an invasive, meandering and annoying pestilence, a weed. But in reality, weeds can be wonderful things and have been used over the annals of time to produce wonderful and nutritious food, especially in times and seasons of austerity. Now, I'm in the throes of reading this wonderful book, and believe it or not, it's got the same title, Honey from a Weed, by a magnificent lady whose experiences of Tuscany and Catalonia, the Cyclades and Apulia, have inspired me to explore some of the food and the cooking techniques from the villages that she inhabited during her travels. Now, her name was Patience Gray, and she was an English cookery and travel writer in the mid to late 20th century. And the book, Honey from a Weed, which was published in, I think, about 1986, it's an account of a Mediterranean way of life. And not only is it a magnificent compendium of traditional recipes and an encyclopedia of wonderful local ingredients, and yes, that includes weeds, but it's written with such kind of eloquence. And for me, it creates the lifelike visuals of what life must have been like in those villages. And sometimes I just yearn for that simplicity in life, and I always yearn for wonderful food. So for example, let's take celery heads. Yeah, that came out of left field quite a bit. But anyway, the leaves of celery I used to buy were often just lopped off in the grocers and discarded. And now I just shudder with disbelief that I would want such incredible flavoured flora to be discarded. They are just simply magnificent, wonderful in salads, and truly amazing sautéed as part of another dish. Which brings me on nicely to one of the recipes in Patience's book that has now become a staple for me, fagioli borlotti alla Toscano, or Tuscan borlotti bean stew. Now, Patience talks about how in Carrara in May there appeared beautiful pink marble husks containing fresh marble beans, the fagioli borlotti. These stunning looking beans, they kind of swell when they're cooked and then maybe turn brown. And when I first read this recipe, I was just captivated by the freshness, the simplicity, and the idea of it being made in an earthenware pot over an open fire. It just sounded so rustic and human. But having played with a version from a modern day kitchen, I've never looked back. So borlotti beans themselves are seasonal, so for this recipe, I've substituted the dry version for the fresh, but nevertheless the results are just magnificent. So without further ado, let's get cooking. I just want to show you these. These are the celery heads, and absolutely they're just magnificent, bursting with flavour. So these are the leaves you can throw in salad and use in other dishes. So we're going to use this flavour with some thyme, some oregano, some parsley, some nice peeled plump tomatoes, and obviously the borlotti beans. It's really such a really good dish. So without further ado, so now we've got our borlotti beans, these beautiful marbled beans, and we're just going to soak them in cold water for 4 hours, like so. In the meantime, we're just going to stick the kettle on for some hot water. So once the 4 hours is up, we're just going to drain these, and then we're going to stick them in a casserole dish like so, cover it with cold water, add some bicarb of soda, and we're going to actually just let them simmer for 5 minutes. In the meantime, let's just get these tomatoes done. So we're just going to put like a cross in the top of the tomato, and this will help in the peeling process. So we'll cover them in hot water for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then those skins should be nicely easy to peel off. So now we've got our simmering beans, so we're going to simmer that for about 5 minutes. Before then we just drain them and just let those cool down. So let's take our tomatoes. You can see those skins are just falling off. So that's why it's important to have ripe tomatoes as well. Oh, look at those, they're fantastic, really nice. They're going to be so good in this stew. So now I'm just going to take the core out. And once we've got the core out, we've got all our tomatoes done, they're ready. So now we're just going to prepare our red onion. So we're just going to take the top and bottom off the red onion, and then we'll peel it. And what we're going to do is just actually slice this. I want slices of the red onion. So just make sure all that skin is off. And then we're just going to slice it like so. So just keep that knife behind your fingers. Beautiful. So once that's done, we're going to take our parsley and we're just going to like roughly chop it. And it's such a vibrant smell, it's wonderful. And then we're going to take the celery heads, which I showed you before. And again, we're just going to chop those. And then we're just going to put them together, and we're just going to roughly chop them so they don't need to be fine. Because we're cooking the stew for an hour and a half, they'll break down really nicely. They smell so fragrant. Oh, it's really, really good. So now we're just going to prep our 2 potatoes, and I'm going to cut them eventually into bite-sized pieces. We'll just speed this up a little bit, I think, like so. All right. So just across the potato twice, and then we're going to cut that in half, and then we're just going to cut the small bite-sized pieces like so. And that's looking pretty good to me. Fantastic. I'll just finish this last bit off. So now we're just going to put the olive oil into our casserole pan. Now it just needs to cover the bottom of the pan, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually simmer these red onions. And we want, when I say simmer, that means we don't want any colour on them. We're just kind of what we call sweetening them. And once we've done that, we're going to have those beautiful, luscious tomatoes. And this is a fun bit coming. I really like this bit. Is we're just going to mash them into the onion and effectively create a tomato sauce. Because they're so ripe, they're pretty easy to crush. So just going to let the heat come up again. So it's bubbling away, beautiful. And then we're going to add those beautiful herbs. So we've got the parsley, the celery, and now we're going to add some fresh thyme, and then just a couple of pinches of dry oregano, or you can use fresh oregano if you want. And then some sea salt, and a bit of black pepper, just for seasoning. I'm just going to give that a jolly good stir. All right, so this is looking fantastic. So let's bring that up to heat and get that boiling, and then we're going to add our potatoes and then those Borlotti beans, which have now got a beautiful shade of brown. All right, we're just going to mix that up. Like so. And then what we're going to do is just pour hot water just over, so you're probably about 1 centimetre over the actual ingredients. So those beans will then cook in that liquid. And that's fantastic. So we're going to bring that up to a boil, and then we're going to simmer it with the lid just slightly ajar. And that's going to simmer for about an hour and a half. And then once we've done that, we're going to draw off that excess liquid. So just get a ladle and then draw it off, and you can save that liquid for soup. Although I've got to admit, one of the best things about cooking this is that this liquid is just so tasty. So I tend to kind of just put it in a little cup and drink it. And it's really kind of healthy, this. And it just tastes fantastic. So once we've drawn enough of that liquid off, I'm just going to add a glug of olive oil because these beans can really take olive oil in, so it's beautiful. And then a thread of aged red wine vinegar. This one's actually with shallots, which is quite nice. And I'm going to give that a little stir, and that's looking amazing. And then I'll just stick the lid on the casserole dish until I'm actually ready to serve. Just remember just to add a little bit more seasoning if you need it, so I just added a bit more sea salt into this. And we are now ready. And now this is it. This is the fagioli Borlotti alla Toscano, or the Borlotti bean stew Tuscan style. And look at that, that's just so beautiful. So until the next time, bon appetit.